Let me pull up this story here for you guys. From Timcast.com. Disney affiliated drag queen welcomes children to show featuring simulated sex and nudity. It's not just simulated sex, it is simulated sodomy, where two men go up on stage in front of children and simulate sodomy. And I'm surprised to see this a little bit because here we go. Katie Porter, Democrat from California, said that groomer and pedophile are just identities. And that, you know, people are attacking them for their identities as if they've committed a criminal act. And it's like, well, grooming is, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And you want to make an argument about someone just being a pedophile, they haven't done anything, fine. But that's an insane thing for a Democrat to say, but it's because they're moving the Overton window. First, they said, drag shows are just fashion. It's dancing. Yep. And then once all of the left got on board and said, they defend these things, and the right's crazy, they've now graduated to drag shows where I can't show you the image, not on YouTube. It is exposed breasts, like simulated breasts, but like not a bra, not a fake bust, quite literally nipples and everything on this person's chest called tits in a box. And then there's actually a dude wearing a thong, and he turns around and he giggles tee-hee with his ass to the kids, and then it shows like the spiral of his ass around him. And then you actually have two guys doing it on stage, simulating doing it on stage. Okay, so here's what I see happening. The people on the right who have families have everything to lose, and so they don't want to take the risk. The people on the left have literally nothing to lose, so they'll risk anything and everything. That's asymmetrical conflict, and it ends with a very obvious outcome. So if you are in a short-term perspective, such as, I can't lose my job, I have kids, I have to feed them. I totally get it. Far be it from me to tell you what to do. Just as long as you know, this is the world you are leaving for your children. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with that, then by all means, do nothing. If this is terrifying you and making you concerned, maybe you should consider what standing down means for your children when they get older. But maybe you want your kids to be on stage with these guys. I don't know. These kids are watching it all happen. They're being groomed by overt sexualization in these shows. It is escalating. They are incrementalizing more and more and more. And this ends with them actually abusing the kids in these events. It started with a drag show where a drag queen dances. The next thing we saw was it's not going to lick itself. Then we saw children taking their clothes off on stage for men at a gay bar. Now you have them simulating sodomy in front of children. And they were. What do you think happens next? I hope you're happy about what the world will be if you don't want to be involved. Okay, I'm not telling you what to do, because I get it. Risk is scary. And I mean that seriously. But just as long as you understand, this is what awaits your children.
Yeah, this one was the worst. So Defend Our Kids Texas, my organization, sent Taylor Hanson out to this particular drag show to get the footage. I did the research on this. It's a drag queen Christmas tour. They've got I think 38 different stops across the country that they're going to. Way more than I'm comfortable with in Texas. I think there was 4 or 5 just in Texas. And the thing about this one is that on the ticketing website, it did say all ages welcome. It did, in most cases, it did give some sort of a very, very soft warning, like, this is adult, so just be careful, but all ages welcome. So typically the response that I get from the left is, well, they did give some sort of warning. Okay, well, why then, in this particular show, did they constantly target the children? Because we have video after video after video of all of these performers speaking to the children in the crowd, calling them up to the stage, interviewing them, putting them on the mic, all while they're also explaining. There was one part where one of the performers talked about a sexual act that they had with their father's boss and detailed it, right? And then went around the audience and had the audience share their favorite sex stories. Knowing
with children,
knowing that there were children in the audience. They knew this because they were conversing with them on the microphone. So for everyone who wants to say, well, it's not the drag queen's fault, they didn't add, they're just saying all ages welcome just because they want to be welcoming and they want to be inclusive. They could very, very easily make this 18 and up, 21 and up if they wanted to. There is a reason why they called out to those children. They called them up to the stage. They received tips from them. There is a reason why they are doing that.
Yeah, in this particular video, too, that you mentioned specifically, I think it's that person with the bazunkas out that clearly was interviewing a small child and
with the bazunkas out.
With I don't know. I don't remember, but I remember seeing this clip going around on Twitter, specifically asking a child who was barely able to speak, "What's your favorite part of the show?" child's like nothing.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for these kids.
Yeah.
What
It's
are
abuse.
these parents thinking, bringing them out to this? And then, and again,
The police have no upside to do anything about it.
But this over the sexualization, what does it do to children? It ruins their possibilities of having cohesive relationships, ruins their possibility of having family members, gets them hooked onto adult contents, robs their innocence, gets rid of their ability to have a childhood. So there's so many layers to this that essentially, for me, at the end of the day, boil down to a depopulation agenda. Some people might say it's a degeneracy agenda. Whatever it is, this is sick. This is not good, and this is not something children should be around.
It can be both, right? Like it can be a depopulation agenda at the top and just a degeneracy problem at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think that's
because a lot of people keep
plausible.
asking, why do children need to be there? But why do guys have to dress in front of children? Should
Right.
be the bigger question. Why do you, as an adult male, have to do this in front of children?
And if
What
you
do you-
didn't like it, you wouldn't target the children in the show.
Just a simple question. What would happen if the Bazungas dancer went to a grade school playground and just walked around?
At this point, it'd probably be tolerated.
No,
You
it
think?
I
wouldn't.
think so.
A father would get up, or if there was a father. A
difference
lot of
is a
families
theater?
are fatherless now.
When like we can't show the images of what they did on YouTube
Right.
because YouTube will say this is not advertiser friendly. But the issue is police, even though it is already illegal, won't do anything about it. So when I see something like this, I am outright abolish the police. 100%. This is already child sexual exploitation, and the cops aren't doing anything about it. So why have cops if they won't even stop that in Texas?
Yeah, Instagram took it down. Instagram took videos and photos of this down, but it's okay.
And
to
they
be
also
in front of
took
small
down,
children.
like, didn't Taylor put up, like, they removed my post, and it's like a smaller version, and they took that one down too. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. I think what's strange to me is most states have laws against, like, you can't show children pornography, right?
Right.
You're not allowed to show them simulated
Right.
sexual acts. So when cops say, well, there's nothing we can do about it, like, that can't possibly be true because this is within, at least in most states, the definition of something that is not allowed. They are choosing not to pursue it. And whether that's because there's no criminal complaint by the parents who bought tickets and brought their children, or, what is the company going to do? Be like, oh, I think we made a mistake. Please prosecute us. Like, you need someone to be complaining theoretically, although the cops do have the right, law enforcement
Texas.
could theoretically press charges. They're just opting not to.
Right.
Texas.
Yeah, I know. And that is what is so infuriating to me as well. I'm like, this is what I think part of their plan is in pushing this in Texas, because some of the most egregious ones that we've done, the one at Ebb and Flow that you guys probably saw with the guy that was dancing to the sexually explicit P-word song with a young girl that was right there. I took that video and I kept telling myself, how in the world is this happening in Texas? And, you got to believe that they are so arrogant that they think if we can get this done in Texas, where can we not get this done? Right? Because
Florida.
that's the only place.
Right.
That's the only place.
No, but I think it's like if you are a liberal in Texas, you see yourself as like someone in occupied territory.
Yes.
You're being so progressive by taking your child to this. And how dare these backwards conservative people wrong this thing that should be, I don't know what, fun. I'm not sure what the adjective is for them. But like, I think it's to connect with these people who are so kind of moving down a radical path, especially in their parenting, that they feel as though they are morally correct. And when there is backlash, they double down on what they did.
Someone should interview these parents and just be like, after the show, why are you bringing your child here? Why do you think this is okay? I'm curious because they're either brain dead, they're either fluoride brained out or just totally out of it, or just really bad people.
Well, they will be in Dallas tomorrow night, and maybe I just might happen to be there asking them those questions.
Yeah, I mean,
Where are the police?
Oftentimes they are called, so they show up, but usually they get stuck trying to maintain peace between Antifa, who always shows up, and the protesters, who always show up. And they say there's no violation. They say there's no violation.
I don't think they get stuck.
We can't do well, right? But they say
I got to say this.
anything.
I think the cops are probably in on it.
I completely agree with you. And so for us, the most reasonable solution for us is to go to the legislators and say you need to strengthen the language and make sure that it is clear that this is child abuse, make sure that it is clear that
I
this is
disagree.
prohibited. What else do you do in this moment to protect kids?
So, well, I'll start with this. We often talk about how the law is less relevant than culture. There are laws in the books in, I can't remember what city it was. I was reading a book and it was like putting a pie on your windowsill is illegal unless it's like Tuesday or something. And it was a law that used to be there because of wild animals being attracted to the small town. But now that it's a big city, it makes no sense why you can't be on the top of your building, put a pie out the window. So no cop will enforce that law. We are at the point where police are completely okay with this. In New York, there's an interesting cultural thing where women are allowed to walk around topless. But a lot of these cops are more conservative. So there's one particular woman who's morbidly obese, and she walks around with her massive bazongas flopping around, and she gets arrested all the time. And then immediately files a lawsuit and wins instantly and gets several $1,000s. Because the cops see her and say, ma'am, you can't do that. And she goes, yes, I can. They say you're under arrest. Then the cops find out it's actually allowed. See, culturally among those cops in New York, they see it and say, I have to stop it. There's no law they know of.
Right.
It's just wrong to them.
Right.
The cops here, what was it, San Antonio?
It's Austin.
Austin?
This one was Austin.
To the cops in Austin, this is perfectly fine, just like the parents think. So no law that could be written is going to make the cops enforce this.
But if
you need Abbott to send in state troopers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not wrong. I have been to some where the cops do see, I can see it on their face. It does seem like they want to do something, but they feel like their hands are tied because of their superiors. I'm not covering for them. Trust me.
I know.
I think it's disgusting.
I'm saying for them, that's an excuse.
Right. Well, right.
Like I've seen cops arrest people for nothing. Yeah. I watched a video out of Florida where a guy got arrested because he was a blind guy with a walking cane. And they're watching two dudes simulate sodomy in front of children. Like, well, this one's too ambiguous for us.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
There's people who pee outside. They get charged with indecent exposure, right?
Yeah.
That happens routinely all the time.
The cops in Texas want this. It's the only explanation.
Well, more importantly, with all the events that I've attended, it's, as you would expect, it's almost exclusively what appears to be single mothers taking their young children.
No fathers usually.
Right,
Yep.
no fathers. And what is so fascinating to me is I'm like, where the hell are the dads in the community? Why are they not coming here? They're all walking in. They're not screaming it down. They're not doing all of the things that I would want and expect, my husband to do if this came to my community and, my child or my friends' children were participating in it or whatever. Where is that urgency of the men in these communities to say, we're not letting you do this in our town? It's really frightening to me.
But men who do that are, toxically masculine and they're not allowed to do that. I don't care. I think it'd be a good thing. But I'm just saying that, like, the same way that cops who might in their gut be like, this is wrong, I can see this is wrong, but I don't know how to move forward because I don't think I have any law to arrest them on. I don't know who I'd arrest, whatever. I think men who are in these communities, like, are you going to tell, if you have a sister who has a young child, you're a man who's going to take your niece or nephew to one of these shows, like, do you say, like, no, you can't take them and start some family rift? Like, I think people are afraid to speak up. I agree with you, but I think that there is so much fear.
I have seen cops arrest people by going, you can't go there, it's a frozen zone. And the person says, what's frozen zone mean? It means you can't go there. And then the person goes, okay, and starts walking, you're under arrest. I've seen people get arrested for resisting arrest, meaning they weren't actually being arrested. There was nothing to resist, and they're being arrested for the act of resisting arrest that wasn't happening. And these cops are like, well, they are shaking big fake tits in front of children and simulating sex acts, which is child exploitation, but far be it from me to know the law.
I was arrested 7 times. 7 times. I had to go to jail. Why? Routinely asking questions, right? Yeah. So to see this level, this is why I have a lot of my points and viewpoints, because seeing the absurdity in our society where you get in trouble for asking a politician a question, but you show your junk to small kids, that somehow is okay. It's not.
I mean, what are the laws that prevent children from entering strip clubs, right? Like, why is this any different?
Right. Right. Well, it's not. I mean, the LGBT community is now, I think, exempt from laws regarding child exploitation and child sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only conclusion that I can come to. And if people are not willing to stand up and do what's right when it comes to sexual abuse of children, like, what are they willing to stand up for?
Imagine being a cop, but also being like, willfully and knowingly only enforcing, like revenue generation through tickets and arresting, legitimate protesters while ignoring Antifa and this.
Yeah.
Like, I can only assume the good cops retired, defund the police worked, and the cops that are left are totally on board with it. That's what they wanted. They wanted a police force that would be subservient. We saw this in Seattle when a bunch of Antifa people were like approaching a guy with weapons and he was backing up, and a cop vehicle pulls up, gets out, grabs the victim and arrests him, and then apologizes to Antifa. That's where we're at.